Hey everybody, Dev here again. Today I wanted to look at CC troops, and in particular I wanted to look at drawing CC troops, killing them off, and the costs involved in doing that. Obviously you want to get rid of the CC troops as quickly and as efficiently as possible, and we're about to take a look at 3 different ways in which we attempted to defeat a base in the last war, which we narrowly lost, as you can see, by 1. And that was in part my fault, but then again, we all had a go at it, and here's what happened. So this is the base in question, and as you can see, there's a lot of compartments and some pretty heavy duty walls in that core, so maybe Valks wasn't the best, but hey, you know, Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results. So what we did was make some subtle tweaks just to try and crack this base open. Now we're looking at the CC troops. We can see here, Town Hall 9, there's 30 in there. It's going to be 2 loons and a dragon. But the annoying thing is this radius. Take a look at all those buildings that are sitting just on there. All right, a lot of people will be fooled into thinking that a hog is going to trigger those, especially this one here. A hog's not going to do that. And don't forget these ones here, not going to trigger that, not going to trigger that. So what you really have to do is be smart. Oh, not going to trigger that or that. Okay, in fact, I think the only people that are going to be triggered if they drop a hog is the people doing the hog dropping. All right, but there are different ways you can draw out and kill off CC troops. First of all, Gunjake has a crack at it. I'm going to speed it up because what he actually does first is create his funnel for his Valks with his wizards first. And you take a look at his army, he hasn't got any hogs, he's got a bit of a queen walk going, so at this stage we're thinking what's going on, what's he going to do, how is he going to take out these CC troops, particularly now we're getting into, you know, quite involved into this attack. So he drops in his Valkyries, triggers off the CC, and then, well, I guess he was hoping that the spring would fling the Valks into the loons and the dragon, but that didn't work. Okay, and for some strange reason, probably due to all those traps and all of that splash damage from the loons and dragons, his Valkyries ended up getting roasted. Okay, and then the dragon still survives, and it's up to the queen to take out the dragon. So there's a good lesson there, folks. Always make killing off CC troops a priority. Okay, always. And we can see here that the attack sort of winds down, doesn't really take off. I guess he was hoping that the Valks would blast their way through and the poison would do their thing. But from a cost versus benefits perspective, I reckon that was about 160 troop slots and spells to try and take out 30 worth. To me, that doesn't seem very efficient at all. So the next one we're going to look at is Frizz, aka Frisbee Subway Nip. He had a crack at the same base, and he had a slightly more efficient method of dealing with the CC troops. He ended up using a jump spell and a golem. Again, I think the intention there was for the golem to hold the loons and dragon in place while the poison ended up doing their thing. Now, when you take into account the wizards that he's dropping as well, and the queen that eventually ended up arriving to finish off, you can see that this costs about 78 troop slots to take out 30. A slightly better return on your investment than 160 odd, but still too inefficient, I think. As a result, okay, his attack now starts to get going, which is pretty good. Valks mostly staying together as a pack. The inclusion of a P.E.K.K.A. here is interesting. I suppose that's because the P.E.K.K.A. offers a little bit of meat as well, sort of like a golem, but it got a bit more of a punch. I like that thought. In fact, I use P.E.K.K.A.s a lot more now that they've had the Tesla 2 times damage removed. I use them when core diving with bowlers. Same sort of idea. They offer a bit of meat. They also offer a bit of attacking punch, which is quite useful. Unfortunately for Frizz, it seems as though his attack is petered out and ends up with about 60 or so %. So after watching both these attacks, Omega Supreme had a crack at it. and used a more traditional method for disposing of CC troops. So what we've got here, standard queen walk setup. Now 4 healers in terms of army space is 56, okay, but it's up to you whether you want to count them in this calculation for dealing with CC troops, because if the queen survives, you're still going to get a lot more value for money. So the calculation does tend to get a little bit tricky here. So after that, Wizard Tower drops, in goes the Hog, targeting the air defense mortar. The Hidden Tesla doesn't do enough damage, triggers off the CC, dropping the poison 1, poison 2. So now we're looking at 5 for each of those poisons, and 5 for the Hog. So what we've got there is about 15 space used. Queen survives, so now we're starting to get some real good value for our money. It was about this stage that there was a knock on my door during a war attack. Who does that? Who knocks on someone's door these days? Well, it was my neighbours. They were just telling me that some of their shoes had gone missing. Yes, some of their shoes had gone missing. And for us to be on the lookout, they suspected it was our noisy neighbours across the road, who should be evicted by now, but you know how it is. Renters, filthy scum. Anyways, moving on. You can see that the queen survives, gets down to a very small sliver of health. I managed to deploy my Valks, but they immediately split. Fortunately, that pack up to the right there, well, someone must have said that there were shoes on sale, because all the Valks end up arriving in one group. There goes a rage spell into the core, staying together as a pack, which was really good, and then dropping a heal spell just to keep them alive. Not needed, because the healers ended up coming over to help out, which was quite useful. Deploy my king, but I'm still chatting away to my neighbours at this stage, and I actually forget to let that king do his job. Perhaps I should have started thinking about his ability a lot earlier, speeding it up. Valk still as a pack, chewing their way through the walls. It's looking pretty good, but time is always going to be of the essence here. And I genuinely believe if I drop my Valks maybe 10-15 seconds earlier, instead of opening up the door, then perhaps we would have had 3 stars here. But hey, it's in the past. What can you do? Just irritates me because we end up losing that war by 1. I reckon we would have won on destruction as well. But anyways, I guess the focus for today was on the CC troops and the disposal of, and perhaps planting that seed of an idea that we look for the most efficient way to dispose of them as possible. The least amount of troop space and spell space required. Anyway, that's my video. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think.